What is going on, everybody? This is another episode of Coordinated Chaos. On this week's episode, we will be recapping what happened in NFL Week 7, as well as we're going to do a little bit of Thursday night football preview for Week 8, and then we will be getting to my one singular, once again, favorite bet against the spread. Let's go ahead and hop into the first game of the week that I want to recap here. That's Seahawks versus Falcons. This one was kind of shocking to me. The Falcons have looked pretty good as of late. Obviously, they've kind of had a little bit of a resurgence since a little bit of a rough start at the beginning of the season, beating Tampa Bay in a shootout on Thursday Night Football. They've won a couple games, and then they come into this game against the Seahawks, and the Seahawks haven't really been playing that great either. They just came off of a loss on Thursday Night Football themselves to the 49ers, their rival, and they just laid the boom on the Falcons. Like the Seahawks were playing really well in this game. Kenneth Walker got his, even though he's been a little bit banged up here as of late. But the Falcons really had nothing for the Seahawks at all.
Yeah, the Seahawks are a team that, like, if they beat the Chiefs, you'd believe it. And if they lost to the Panthers, you'd also believe it. Because their good is awesome.
That's a
bad.
fact.
Their bad is so bad.
Yeah, it's weird.
The Falcons have started figuring out, like, they have some pretty good weapons. Like, London is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Bijan's good. They've started to figure out how to use them. Their defense just isn't quite up to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And so, losing at home sucked. Kenneth Walker had, like, caught a wheel route where I was like, who is this? Like, he looked like a receiver.
But yeah, he wasn't a big pass catcher in college. And so, like, it's just kind of a thing he's kind of added to his game once he gets to the NFL. But, yeah, he's looked good. And he is, like, when he's cooking, that offense for the Seahawks is very good. Geno Smith is a very ambitious type thrower of the football. He does not leave a lot of plays on the field. He's going to sling it. Obviously, that comes with turnovers. It's a risk reward type of deal with him. But he was slinging it. Metcalf had a pretty good game here. He left, unfortunately.
Yeah. Did they say what happened?
MCL sprain. Yeah. So he got carted off.
2 weeks.
They said he's going to be week to week, which that's very up in the air and vague. Yeah, for sure. So. We'll see what happens there, but Seahawks looked good in this one, obviously.
Two solid teams, though. Like, the Falcons would love that game, but that seems like a wild card matchup.
Yeah, I think both these teams are playoff teams for sure. The problem with both of these teams being playoff teams is if neither one of them wins their division, all those NFC North teams right now that have all those great records, I mean, from top to bottom, you got literally all the NFC North teams just have great records. So it's going to be tough for one of those guys to make the wild card because the NFC North might inhabit all of the playoffs, essentially. So
that's true.
All right, next game we have Texans versus Packers. This was like the battle of the two young studs at quarterback, obviously. Jordan Love in this game, slinging it around just like he always does. Multiple touchdowns, multiple picks. That's just kind of like the give and take of his way of playing football, kind of like how I was just explaining about Geno Smith and the way it's high risk, high reward type of stuff. He knows how strong his arm is, and he's going to let everybody know it. That does come at the behest of turnovers and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like, it puts so much pressure on defenses when he's just slinging it downfield like that like you have to account for everything. And like their playmakers are all. There's not one real huge stud. I feel like Jaden Reed's the best of the group when it comes to wide receivers.
Yeah, probably.
But like they're just all very good. Like nobody's like great, but they're all really good. And then you have Josh Jacobs to worry about in the backfield as well.
Yeah, their offense is really good. I didn't realize how much crap Jair Alexander talked.
Oh, dude,
he was on Diggs like all game.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of funny. But Stroud didn't impress me too much. Mixon really kept them in that game.
Yeah.
And so I feel like both those teams are also both playoff teams.
Correct.
And that was a game where just someone had to lose. And
I mean, it was close to the very end. Obviously, they had to go down and kick a field goal essentially to get that job done. The thing is, though, and like I can't take full credit for like this take and the way that this is being talked about, but essentially from what I've been hearing from people that know things better than me when it comes to looking at the game and X's and O's and whatnot, people are very upset and a little bit like hesitant on Bobby Slowick, who is the offensive coordinator for the Texans right now. They think he's doing a little bit of a disservice to the Texans offense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of first down or early down runs, and then it's essentially like CJ Stroud bail us out on third and long if our runs don't work on first and second down. And it's just like the offense seems a little bit too conservative in that nature when you have a guy in CJ Stroud who's proven he has the tools, and you can trust him with passing the ball in early downs to get you in good positions and get, third and favorables. But whenever you're putting him behind the 8 ball like that, if you just run and you get, a negative 2-yard run on first down, and then maybe you run it again, you get 3 yards, and you're sitting at a third and 9, and it's like it's not sustainable for CJ Stroud to do, especially with Nico Collins out now.
Yeah.
The offense just isn't what it was. Like you said, Joe Mixon played well. He's continued to play well every single time he's been in there. It keeps the offense a little bit more balanced. But I just don't think it's a sustainable way of going about offense.
No, I agree. And I was watching Diggs because he was on my team, and they never let him go. It was all these tunnel and bubble screens, and if we learned anything about CJ Stroud in high school or in college, you should let him do his thing.
Yeah, for sure. Just let him sling it around. Yeah. He's going to make good decisions for the most part. Tank Dell was upsetting in this game. I played him. I started him in my fantasy league. Obviously, he goosed me.
Yeah.
So that was not fun. He dropped the touchdown. That was essentially one that a professional receiver's got to make no matter what. I mean, it's not the easiest catch in the world. You're kind of falling over and kind of sliding, but
that's your job.
I mean, I feel like he made that play a billion times last year. So I don't know what the deal is with him. Obviously, he's coming off a broken leg as well as being shot in the offseason. So it's you got to give him a little bit of room to kind of get back into football shape, I guess. But hopefully by the end of the season, he kind of rounds into form. But Packers get a big win in that one. Obviously, that was just one that everybody was hyped about because of the QB matchup.
For sure.
Next game, Lions versus Vikings, huge NFC North rivalry. This thing was really fun from the jump. The Vikings jump out to a 10-0 lead very quickly. I bet the Lions, and I got a lot of crap on social media. If anybody follows me on TikTok and whatnot, I was getting roasted up in the comments when I made this video. I think this was on Friday night when I ended up posting it. People were like you're an idiot. The Vikings are going to win, blah, blah, blah. I just I don't see how this works out for the Lions, blah, blah, blah. And man, I was sitting there man, maybe I was I was doubting my own abilities there. And especially when the Vikings jumped out to that 10-0 lead, I was crap, maybe all these people were correct. Yeah. And then the Lions came roaring back. That's not a pun intended. I didn't mean to do that. That was pretty good. That was cheesy. Yeah. All right. So the Lions come back in it, and they get Amon-Ra really going in this one. Jahmyr Gibbs had to really step up in this game, and he had a very, very good game on the ground. I think 116 yards on the ground and a touchdown. David Montgomery gets hurt in this game, hurts his knee a little bit, does come back, so that's good for fantasy purposes if you have him. But the Lions just look really good. They've been rolling. Yeah. Can't really say a whole lot about you can't knock the Vikings for losing in a tough matchup in a rivalry game like this. It was a fun game. Yeah,
I think this game taught us two things. Was one, everyone was oh, the Vikings are going to come off the bye week and just suck. Yeah. They're total flukes. Yeah. And they prove they can play. They're a team that
they're competing.
That's legit. And then the Lions continued to just show because they got stomped in the face early, and it was will they just collapse and lose by 30? And they goofball got them going, and they figured it out.
Yeah, dude, he's been incredible actually.
Yes.
In this past game, I think it was 15 for 15 to start.
Yeah, and then he does not miss many throws.
Yeah, his first incompletion was a tip pass the line, so it's he didn't even really he's been very efficient. And him and Ben Johnson, that relationship they have right now as OC and quarterback has been clicking on all cylinders. I personally think they're the best team in the NFC right now. Yeah. I don't think they've played the cleanest football in the NFC for sure from the jump, and they're going to be tough to deal with in the playoffs.
And I don't even know if this is a bad take, but I think Goff has figured out, especially when he was on the Rams, his defense is so good. I'm not calling him a game manager, but he knows if
sometimes he can. That's what you have to do.
Yeah, he knows with the stars on the offense and the defense, he just has to do his job.
Yep.
He's not in a position where he's got to Josh Allen it. Yeah. He can just do what he's supposed to and they'll win. Correct. And he's done it really well.
Yeah, that's the exact thing that I've been just hoping that Jalen Hurts figures out, which he kind of got there in this this past matchup or this past week's matchup. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But either way, yeah, like you're saying, Jared Goff's just taking what the defense is giving them right now. They're scheming up their playmakers very well. Unfortunately, they're going to be without Jameson Williams now for 2 games. He's suspended with a PED thing, so I don't know what in the world he took. But he didn't even really come out and be like he didn't really even deny it. He was just like, yeah, I'm just going to take this one on the chin.
He didn't apologize.
Yeah, he's just like, it is what it is. 2 games.
They got me.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. But either way, he's been really good for him. But yeah, I guess Tim Patrick will step up. If you need a real desperate dart throw in fantasy, throw Tim Patrick in your lineup for the next 2 games, you'll be fine. But yeah, this was a huge win for the Lions. Obviously, getting a division win is always nice this early on in the season. Now, I kind of alluded to it just a minute ago. Eagles versus Giants. In this one, the Eagles finally make me not hate myself after watching an Eagles game for the first time in, I don't know, it feels like almost a year, considering how long ago they collapsed last year. And then this year, I wasn't so excited about the way they started off the season. They are 4-2. I can't complain too much, but I haven't really loved the way it looked, obviously. And this one, they did come out, and once again, they have not scored a point in the first quarter yet this season. They're the only team that has not scored.
That's awesome.
It's so weird because the Eagles are 4-2, and they've only scored in 3 quarters the entire season, which is if we just score anything in the first quarter, how good can we be?
Yeah, give us 3.
Yeah, just give us 3 quarters, we'll beat your team. Yeah. That's a crazy thing to think about, and that's more of I don't know, it's just the Eagles' talent level is so good, even with what I think the offense is very just vanilla and blah. And I don't know, like I said, I've been trying to figure out for a long time. I need some answers, whether it's Kellen Moore not putting, his full offense in, if it's Nick Sirianni meddling a little bit too much, is it Jalen Hurts doesn't like certain concepts and he's just I like this stuff, we're going to run this stuff until, the cows come home. I don't know what it is, but they, at least in this game, got the run game going. Obviously, they kind of needed to. This was the one thing that I said last week, that if the Eagles were going to win this game and blow them out, Saquon was going to have to go nuclear, and he did. He had 176 yards on the ground, went crazy, 13 yards shy of his all-time rushing record or whatever for himself, his personal record. And yeah, he went crazy in this game.
Yeah, you did call it. You're if they're gonna go crazy, it's gonna start with him, and it did. But I'll play devil's advocate here. They did beat the Giants.
I am not I like the way it looked because this is what I've been asking for is go towards that Baltimore way of offense, which is just pound the rock and then let the passing game open up because of it. And at least they stuck with that type of game plan.
Well, especially after the little issue with the Browns last week, this looked a little bit cleaner.
For sure.
And these are the games, as a fan of a team with more talent, you're we should handle this one pretty easily. Yeah. It shouldn't look hard, and it didn't look hard.
It did not look hard for the first time in a while. And it was just nice that we still, the Eagles in general still have the capability of dominating a worse team. It's in there. And I feel like this exudes a little bit more confidence, and they can look at themselves in the mirror now and be oh, we didn't forget how to be a dominating team. So I think going forward, this helps. Obviously, they're going to have to come back and prove to the fan base and themselves again next week or this upcoming week against the Bengals that it wasn't a fluke, that they can continue to do this. The Bengals defense can be had, obviously. The offense is tough to go up against, so we'll see how good the defense really is. We'll see how good the offense can be. Yeah. Because Joe Burrow is not going to just lay down.
No. That was a matchup that I was actually quite excited for, because those are, in my opinion, 2 teams that have underperformed a little bit, but both clearly have the talent.
Yep.
And so it's the Bengals need the win probably more than the Eagles do. Yeah. But I do think it will be a good test for both of them, because they this isn't a crap team that you can walk over.
Yep.
So they're both going to have to come to play. You're going to have to take the win, not just have it given to you.
Correct. Yeah. Joe Burrow's been playing really good ball.
The Higgins-Chase duo is really working.
100%. And last week you saw just how much coverage they tried to shade towards Chase. He didn't really have a huge game, but that just opened up one-on-one opportunities for T. Higgins, and that's exactly what they want that offense to be. It's just like, if you take away one of our weapons, we're going to use the other ones, and that's just it's the way it is. And the thing is, these are like mirroring teams of each other right now, I feel like, because like you said, the weapons are apparent on both sides of the ball. And for my money, Zach Taylor's offense for the Cincinnati Bengals is very lackluster, just as much as I think the Eagles' offense is very vanilla and lackluster. Yeah. So it's like they both operate with the mindset of our talent is just going to win out, and like that's how they win ball games. Like we hope our quarterback can get the ball to our playmakers, and then we win the game that way offensively, essentially. So I will say the Eagles' defense is a little bit better than Bengals' defense so far in the season. It's 2 weeks now the Eagles defense hasn't allowed a touchdown on offense, so that's a good sign going forward. But it's been the Browns and the Giants. I was
going to say, against whom?
Once again, you got
Daniel Jones, a little bit of a
caveat there. So, yeah, moving forward, like I said, it's the best I've felt about the team in a long time. But like, you got to take it with take it with a grain of salt, because Joe Burrow can light us up next week, and then Jalen Hurts gets strip sacked, and I'm right back where I was 2 weeks ago. So I can't get too high, I can't get too low. Just the Eagles are going to probably break my heart. So let's move on to the next game. We're a little bit too long with the Eagles there, but I'm a fan, so it is what it is. Chiefs versus 49ers, rematch of the Super Bowl. Obviously, this one was kind of a slop fest.
Yeah, that was not
both
good.
Teams turning the ball over. Patrick Mahomes throwing interceptions. Brock Purdy throwing more interceptions, which ultimately led to them essentially losing the game more or less. They really couldn't get anything going. They've kind of got Jordan Mason involved in the offense a little bit too late in this game, I thought. Like if they would have stuck with the run game earlier on, maybe Brock Purdy in the offense would have had a little bit more things going on. Brandon Ayuk goes down with an injury in this one, ACL, MCL, going to be gone for the season. Debo had to leave the game early because of pneumonia we figured out, which is weird. Juwan Jennings didn't even play in this game because of like a hip injury.
It was Kittle's game to play.
It was Kittle. Kittle got quite a bit of work in this one, but it just wasn't enough to get the job done. No. And the Chiefs just keep winning ball games.
Yeah.
Mahomes isn't viable in fantasy at this point. No. Like it's crazy that he's just getting the job done, not throwing not throwing touchdowns or really being that like dynamic on offense at all. It's essentially Kareem Hunt right now, which is just crazy. He's just kind of taking the load as the running back, and they've been running the ball and playing defense and getting the job done.
Yeah, this was like almost the exact opposite of the Vikings Lions. It was teams with talent that have not figured out what they're doing yet. Mm-hmm. So it was just kind of a who's going to break worse.
Yeah.
And like the Chiefs, I just feel like are probably the best coached team in football.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
They just figure out how to kind of win.
Yeah.
And now everyone thinks they're going to go undefeated.
Yeah.
They're especially with D-Hop.
Yeah, which they traded for not right after, but like a couple days after the game. I think they watched the tape back and were like, if Juju's not there, which is like a crazy thing to say in 2024, he has a hamstring, he's gonna be out for a while now. They looked at the roster and said, we need some kind of weapon at this point.
Well, and it's scary that it's like if Juju's not there, Juju's not a receiver one, and they're like 6-0.
Exactly.
But because I was watching the Titans, and there was a point they were on offense, they were down 14, like 12 minutes left in the game, so it's like comeback time.
Yep.
Hopkins is standing on the sideline with his helmet off, like on the other side of the announcers were like,
what's going on?
Something's wrong.
Yeah.
But
he's like basically on the trade block.
Yeah.
Point, so
I mean, he went from 1-5 to 6-0.
Yes, very quickly, very abruptly, which I know he's excited about.
For sure.
I saw a video actually today where like his family was in the car, like I think it was the day before or maybe the day of on Sunday morning. And his whole family was singing a Taylor Swift song together. So, like, they, already foreshadowed it.
That is funny.
And, nobody really caught on. Yeah. And then people were like, we should have known.
Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah.
So, the trade deadline's right around the corner. We should have known something funky was going on. Yeah. But, D-Hop to the Chiefs helps them tremendously.
Helps Kelsey.
That's
helps
crazy.
The rest of the offense.
It opens up a little bit, more than probably what Juju was doing, even though he, played well in the first game when he came back there. But, Chiefs 6-0, just finding ways to win. Yeah. They know how to scheme certain things open on offense just to score some points, and then on defense, Spagnuolo knows how to shut certain quarterbacks down. So
Spags and Andy Reid have figured out the coaching aspect, and then Mahomes just figures out the rest.
Yeah. Even if he throws picks, like at the end of the day, like he's going to make the right play.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
when it comes down to like winning time. But yeah, that was crazy. Bills versus Titans. Really, the only reason I'm even like going to talk about this because the Titans aren't relevant at this point.
No.
Obviously, we were just talking about D-Hop getting traded. They're essentially doing a fire sale.
Yeah,
I think Harold Landry, their defensive end, pretty good player there. He's on the trade block. Most of those players are probably going to get sold off, basically like at a football auction. But the Bills at this point, the only reason I even want to say anything is because Amari Cooper obviously implemented in the offense week 1. Didn't even really know what he was doing out there. Scores a touchdown on a play where Keon Coleman had to tell him where to go.
Was awesome.
And so, like, Amari Cooper immediately makes an impact. He had 5 targets, 4 catches, and a touchdown. And, like, he didn't even know the playbook. So I think the sky's the limit for what he can add and help that offense do. And so that's exciting in itself.
Yeah, I think he gives Josh Allen a bit of hope because they still have, like, their offense was fine. Like, it was okay. But now they have everyone that made it fine, plus like kind of a receiver one.
Yeah.
And so, the sky is the limit. But that play was so funny when they audibled and
he was like, I don't know what I'm doing now.
Yeah, he runs, he scores.
Keon was like, seam route, bro. Like just run up and just scramble that safety for me.
So, that was funny. And it helps Coleman, too, because as a rookie, being like it's shown with Marvin Harrison, like it's just hard if you're being covered by their best. Correct. Like that's just tough. Yeah. But that's exciting for the Bills.
Yeah.
Everyone's I feel like most people like to root for Josh Allen.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't see a world where you like hate Josh Allen other than if you're like Nick Wright. That guy hates everybody except for Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, we get it. You got the luxury of like being a fan of like the greatest quarterback probably to ever live, as well as like the best dynasty we've seen since the past.
Recently,
just
2 out of 3 with
for
many,
like liking somebody else.
Yeah,
I don't know. He just makes me mad.
Yeah,
but next game we got Jets versus Steelers. This one had a lot of hype around it because of the fact that Devontae Adams is going to be his first game as a Jet. Russell Wilson was going to become the quarterback of the Steelers in this one. And I really thought that the Jets would take this like momentum, the like new vibe of the team with Devontae Adams coming in and like roll with it. And it just looked still very dysfunctional and disjointed. And they just didn't look great. Like the defense didn't play well at all. And like that was like the thing they've like hung their hat on for the last couple of years. And it's a disappointing thing for the Jets. I bet on them 2 weeks in a row. I think I'm completely off the Jets. I don't know if I'm going to bet them for the rest of the season unless they like start turning something around that's really proved to me that like their offense is like competent at a point. But it's been really disappointing. Russell Wilson comes out and just is like slinging the ball around and just throwing up jump balls to George Pickens. Like I will say, like everybody's like, oh, Russell Wilson, the decision to go to him was the right one. Look at what they did. They scored 30-plus points against the Jets in prime time. And for me, I feel like we need to hit the brakes a little bit because, like, realistically, it didn't look as good as the stats really say it did. Like, yes, he was a better passer than Justin Fields has been this season. But at the end of the day, like, the passes he was throwing up to George Pickens, like, I know he's like a great 50-50 ball guy, and he makes a lot of them like 80-20 balls. But basically underthrowing George Pickens all season is not sustainable. Like it's just not always going to work out, and like you're not always going to get the Jets defenders.
Yeah, that's true.
That like they like to play a little bit of man to man, and Sauce Gardner wasn't on him the whole time. Every single time he was mossing people in the middle of the field out there. So. I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit on the Steelers and the rust of it all. And like, I don't know if this is like super sustainable for the Steelers.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way about the Jets. Like people took it as almost Devontae Adams was going to fix the team. Yeah. It was like, problem solved. Like defenses, and you're like, they got a receiver that's 31. Like they didn't get a Justin Jefferson, where this guy's like prime time.
Correct. Yeah.
And like. He had, I think he had 9 targets and he had 3 catches for 30 yards.
Yeah, they clearly were not on the same page. And I was guilty of it. I really thought they'd hit the ground running. Like he obviously knows the offense. He knows Aaron Rodgers. But like it is hard probably to go like 2 years without playing with a guy and then step right in and know exactly where he wants the ball and blah, blah, blah. Like it's probably harder than like people are making it out to
Absolutely.
be. But at the end of the day, like it was not pretty, and I guess they'll get better as the season progresses. But like they don't have a whole lot of time to like mess around because they're 2-5 now. So
and also the Steelers defense is no cakewalk.
No.
Like they have a pretty solid. Like that is not like if you wanted to like have the game figured out, you want to play like the Panthers.
Correct.
Like a team that like, but the
Steelers you can kind of test things.
Yeah, but the Steelers are like a legit, and Wilson, like you said, like he kind of just managed it. I think he's figured out they also have some talent.
Yep.
And Najee Harris has started to play well.
Yeah, if they can continue to run the ball like that,
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's not going to have to do everything, and it's going to be it's going to be more sustainable than like what we saw before.
I feel like Wilson's job is to do what you need him to. Like
Correct.
the defense should allow under 20 points.
Yep.
Like Harris should get 100 yards and a touchdown, and if Wilson can throw for like 2 touchdowns a game,
then you're looking pretty. I mean, basically, like if the Steelers can like average like 24 points a game, they're going to win a lot of games this season.
For sure.
And Mike Tomlin's going to have the record again of having, being over 500 since ever. Literally, he's never had a season under, and I feel like it's headed that direction once again. But yeah, he looks like a genius considering he was apparently like the real only staunch like guy behind Russell Wilson and making this move. Everybody else was like, are you sure? And like I was questioning it. I'm not going to lie, because obviously the way that offensive line has played all season long, I was like, I feel like you need the Justin Fields athletic mobility back there to like get out of these bad spots. And he's still, I mean, Russell Wilson looked pretty good.
Yeah, he did. Also, shout out to Breece Hall. He's starting to figure it out.
Starting to turn it on a little bit.
Which is good, because if the offensive power is there, because Wilson's pretty good. Rodgers, I feel like, can be decent. Now they have Devontae Adams.
Yeah. I think they need to take a little bit of pressure off of Aaron Rodgers by going towards the run game a little bit more. Just be a little bit more balanced. I feel like they've gone really pass heavy, and I feel like they just need to start pushing people around.
Do you think Hassan Reddick would have won them some games?
Maybe, because their DNs have been a little bit lackluster this season. We'll see what he looks like right off the bat, because obviously he didn't go to training camp.
No.
And that's already proven to be a problem for a lot of players that like skipped out on training camp because of like contract disputes and stuff, just like he did. And so he's hopping directly into the season, and like we don't know what kind of shape he's in, and so like it might not be until a few games until he gets going anyway. So like
because he's just eating a bunch of fines. He's like
correct.
Keep going. I don't care.
Exactly. So but he's back. He is back officially now. He's he'll play in this game or this next game. I just don't know how effective he's going to be, like I said, because he's missed so much time, and you're jumping directly into the NFL football season where everybody else has already been playing multiple games. So it's going to be tough on him physically. But
for sure.
Next game, Ravens versus Buccaneers. This was Monday night. This was one of the 2 Monday night football games. We were not going to talk about the other one because it was the Chargers and Cardinals, and that game was pretty ugly.
Bunch of studs.
Oh, yeah, that was not good. The Ravens versus Buccaneers was a pretty good game. Bucs jump out to a lead early on this one. And then the Ravens just completely come back and mollywop them. And then, unfortunately, at the end of this game, you have a bunch of injuries. Middle of the game, Mike Evans goes out with a hamstring, which he had already been kind of like ailed by like earlier on in the season. He was kind of dealing with it going into the game. I don't know why they decided to play him. Honestly, they probably should have just rested him.
They're a playoff team.
Yeah,
keep him for later.
Exactly. I don't know what their deal was there, but now they said he's going to be out until at least week 12. I think their bye is week 11. So they don't want to put him on IR because they don't want him to be gone for the 4 games, and the bye week does not count as one of those eligible. So week 12 is the target to come back for him, but then Chris Godwin goes down
that was bad.
Yeah, that was they didn't even show the replay on TV. Dislocated left ankle. He's gone for the season, obviously. That was devastating. It was with 43 seconds left in the game. That sucked. Because, I mean, I kind of get why he was still in there. They technically had a shot at coming back and win that game. It was a very low percentage chance, but that just stinks for their offense in general. Like,
that's not ideal.
Yes, they have, Jalen McMillan, a rookie that's going to step up. Trey Palmer was already there. Sterling Shepard was a guy that they signed in, free agency, but he's pretty old and he's injury prone as well. So offensively, I don't know where they're going to go to get their production for the next few weeks until Mike Evans comes back. Yeah, they're going to have to just pound the rock on the ground. I mean, Bucky Irving, Sean Tucker, Rashad White's probably going to have to do a little bit more in the passing game to kind of supplement the loss of all the wide receivers.
Yeah.
So Buccaneers are going to be in a little bit of a tough spot going forward. They get the Falcons again this week, who they already lost to in that shootout on Thursday Night Football.
Started to figure it out too.
Yeah, and the Falcons are no slouches. But really, the story in this one was obviously the Ravens, the way that offense has looked. In this game at first, Derrick Henry really didn't get anything going. And Lamar was having to kind of carry the team, and he did it. I mean, he
can.
Yeah, he can.
Everyone knows he can.
Exactly. Like, these are those like high variance games where like he took over and just threw that long deep bomb to Rashad Bateman perfectly in his hands. The pass protection in that was perfect. Like, he had all the time in the world back there and just let Rashad get open. But and then finally kind of the dam broke and Derrick Henry rips off an 81-yard run. The fastest he's ran in a long time was like 21.8 miles per hour or something like that. It's crazy how like good he still is.
Yeah, he's fast. But I think what's so good for them is like I don't think you can stop Derrick Henry for a full football game. So if you let Lamar do his thing, and then if it switches, Derrick Henry does his thing early, then Lamar does his thing late.
Correct.
But like my unpopular opinion is right now I would give Lamar Henry or Derrick Henry the MVP because like he has taken that offense and even the games where he doesn't do amazing, it's like just the presence of the huge guy in the backfield. Like you have to like
pay attention.
And then over time. The dam just start. You hit, and then one breaks, and then
there's a crack. You just keep running into this brick wall that is like potentially a stacked box, and then eventually by like the mid third quarter, it's a crack, and he rips off like 7 yards, and then that's when he breaks a long run.
All it takes because he's so big is one missed tackle. As a safety. You don't really want to be diving at
people are making business decisions.
Yeah, you're like,
and the fact that it's this early on in the season and people are already making business decisions, it's like, what do you think is gonna happen in like late December when it's cold as hell outside?
So much worse.
And this guy's gonna have to like go head up on Derrick Henry in the hole, and those guys are just gonna try to dive at his legs and hope to God that he trips on them essentially because they're not gonna try to really tackle at that point.
No.
So. Derrick Henry has been a revelation for that team, and he's taken that offense to a whole another level, which has allowed what has been a little bit of a lackluster secondary of the Ravens to kind of get away with some things because the offense has been scoring so many points. And so I feel like the Ravens probably need to make a move for some kind of secondary help at the trade deadline if possible. They might go out and try to get a wide receiver to kind of really like bolster that offense because maybe that's what they do is they say, look, our defense just kind of is what it is. Yeah. Maybe we just like double down on offense and just try to outscore everybody in the AFC, which, it's possible. I mean, like at this point, the way that the Chiefs offense has looked, like we were talking about contenders in the AFC, the way the Chiefs offense looked, like you can outscore that offense.
Absolutely.
Like I know Kansas City's defense is good, but if you got that much firepower for, the Ravens, like at the end of the day, if they add like a Cortland Sutton, that just adds another level of like this offense can go crazy.
Well, and what the Ravens have that a lot of like I would say the Ravens and the Lions are the biggest, like their offense can own you in like an 8-minute drive. Like they don't have to get some big boom, like a 5-yard run, 4-yard run. 5 and
they can matriculate down the field and kill clock.
Yeah, like they get the ball like up 5 with 9 minutes left. They could just kill the entire
That's the thing you have to do when Patrick Mahomes is on the other side of the field is just keep him off of it.
You can't
or else he is going to be the guy. He's going to be the Grim Reaper. He's going to come and he's going to kill you at the end of the game if you give him a possession.
It's like Tom Brady. You see the story every time. Yep. And like Josh Allen proved like the guy scored 13 seconds left. You're
Correct.
like, pass, and then Butker ends the game. Yeah. And it happens over and over.
Yeah.
Because that's
the same story.
That's what I'm so curious about for the Ravens is so far, I mean, they haven't had Henry till this season, but they've kind of been the regular season Warriors in a way. Kind of like
can they get it done?
Yeah, it's like what can Henry like be the like guy to make that happen.
The catalyst to like, get them over the hump more or less. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know for sure. But I mean, we thought that last year that was going to be the case for the Ravens. The way they looked in the regular season, they were clearly the best regular season team in football. And then the Chiefs just
go to their place and take it.
Correct. Yeah. So, all right. Next, that pretty much wraps up the Week 7 recap. We're going to go on to the Thursday Night Football preview. It is going to be the Vikings versus the Rams. It's in LA. Just something to kind of preface this matchup. There's been like some rumors and supposedly there's no real like backing behind this, but it's just an interesting theory that the Vikings were interested in trading for Matt Stafford, which is like wild because, and they're thinking that the theory behind this was you trade Sam Darnold to the Rams give him a long-term contract, and then he becomes the future of the Rams at the quarterback position. You get Matthew Stafford on that, like essentially like a 1-year mercenary, let's go win a Super Bowl deal. Yeah. And then the next year, like he probably ends up like retiring maybe. If he doesn't, you still got J.J. McCarthy to like learn behind him. If he does retire, you got J.J. McCarthy next year. Yeah. So like it's an interesting theory. They said there's no real like backing behind it. Also in this game, you have the fact that Cooper Kupp is in it. He's going to be coming back from an ankle injury. There's been rumors about him being traded at the trade deadline as well. The Chiefs supposedly were in on it, but then they I guess they thought the price was a little bit too high, so they went with the D-Hop route instead. We'll see if he goes anywhere. Selfishly, for my fantasy football team, I don't want Matthew Stafford or Cooper Kupp to go anywhere because they have that like relationship and mind meld that like the Travis Kelce and the Pat Mahomes have. The Brady and Gronk, Brady and Edelman type, relationship, that slot receiver to quarterback kind of thing. So I don't want them to go anywhere personally. And the Rams will stay competitive. They probably won't compete for a playoff spot in the NFC, unfortunately, because they're just not that talented outside of, the few offensive pieces more or less. But so in this game, Vikings versus Rams, I think I'm going to go Vikings minus 2.5. Versus the Rams, even though it's in LA. The Vikings fans travel pretty well. The Rams never have a great home field advantage in quotations. And the Vikings, obviously, they're coming off of a loss to the Lions that, they were very close to winning. So they're probably going to be a little bit pissed off about that. They're going to want to make a statement that, like, they're still here. Like, they dropped one game. They were undefeated, but this is not like the end of their story. Like Sam Darnold's not going to turn into a pumpkin all of a sudden. So I think they want to prove a point. I think Aaron Jones is going to have a big game in this game. But I think it's going to be kind of high scoring. I can see this going like, I don't know what the over-under is, but I'm curious to see because like I feel like this could have like some shootout potential.
Yeah, I could see the shootout. And I think the Rams – this is the one season where if they could have a prime Aaron Donald, it would be so ideal.
I know.
Because the talent on offense just isn't there. So this is where they need like basically
a playmaker.
Yeah, like a Chris Jones, like someone who just kind of keeps you in it when the offense is figuring it out. But I have to say, I think the Vikings are going to end up doing what the Vikings do and just collapse. I think the Lions might have just been the start of just. But did you see the cool magazine cover of Anthony Edwards and
Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, remaking the Kevin Garnett and Randy Moss thing.
Correct. Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, that was cool.
One of the things you said there, though, reminded me, and now it's making me rethink this whole bet in general, honestly, which I don't know. It's honestly kind of BS, but it's a pretty good little thing that has been figured out in quotations. So Chris Long, former Eagle, former Patriot, former Ram, St. Louis Rams specifically. He has a podcast, and he has figured out, and I don't know like what brought him to this like conclusion, that every single time the Lions play an opponent, the next week that whoever that opponent was plays horribly. Right. It's like the opponent. Every single time you go against the Lions, you get into like a car wreck.
Yeah, you're like broken.
Yeah, the next game you're like, oh my god, I can't feel my legs. Yeah, they have like trauma going into the next game. They just don't perform well, and I think it's like something crazy. Like it's a crazy record of like the teams like always lose.
Yeah, like
the next
20-0 or something.
Yeah,
where you're like,
but the problem is like, man, I don't know, the Vikings talent wise and like. I trust their coaches against a Rams squad who like is gonna still be without Puka Nacua and their defense is just okay. Like I just don't know if that's going to be a sustainable like theory, but
yeah,
it's a pretty funny one that like Chris Long was able to point that out. But
that is kind of funny. I have a feeling the Rams, like Cooper Kupp's kind of been like the golden guy. Like he was, I don't know, like I feel like they would rally around him to be like, all right, Kupp's back, like let's get our thing going.
Yeah,
and this would be a good game for them to start and then prove to people like we still have a football team.
Yeah, I mean, if they win this game, they're not out of it. No. Like record-wise, and like the NFC West is not like won at all yet. I mean, obviously the 49ers who are struggling right now.
Yeah.
Especially with the amount of injuries that are piling up for them. The Seahawks are very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde right now. So like I mean, the division could be won by the Rams
for sure.
But I think it's definitely an interesting matchup for a Thursday night football game. Let's go on to the next one. This is my favorite bet against the spread this week. It is Packers minus 4.5 versus the Jags. I think the Jags stink. I know they beat the Pats in London. Pats stink. Like it just
Drake
is what it is.
Decent. Their team's horrible.
Drake made some good plays. That's because the Jags defense is really bad. And I really think that Jordan Love's going to take advantage of this. Like, yes, like I said, like he has the high variancy where like he can throw a bunch of picks, but I don't think the Jags have enough on offense, not enough sustainable offense to really take advantage of turnovers if they even happen. Yeah. And in the off chance they don't happen in this game and Jordan Love still throws for 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns, I think it can be a blowout potential. So I like the Packers to cover.
Yeah, I would agree with this one. I feel like the greatest robbery ever was Trevor Lawrence and his contract because they went to the wild card once and then he became the highest paid quarterback. And you're like, huh.
They renamed their stadium Trevor Bank.
Yeah.
And then they got mollywopped in the game directly after that. And it's like, man, the vibes are just bad.
No, and like ETN's hurt. Their coach is about to get fired.
Yeah.
And like Lawrence is decent, but I've never been like, wow.
Yeah. I think there needs to be an offensive overhaul with that like coaching staff. I think they need to bring in somebody that just knows what they're doing. I don't know who that will be next year. It'll be interesting to see what like the coaching carousel looks like this upcoming season. But I just Trevor has not lived up to the billing that he had, coming out of college, saying he was going to be the best prospect since Andrew Luck. So been very disappointed in Trevor Lawrence and the Jags in general.
Well, the Jags and the Cowboys are kind of in the same boat of like they can't have the same argument as the Panthers or like the Titans where they just lack talent.
Correct.
Like they have the players and they just do nothing with them.
Yeah. The defense was supposed to be good. They have some decent talent on the defensive side. Ryan Nielsen was the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, who had a really good year last year in Atlanta. Comes over, like just essentially does like a horizontal job switch, and goes from being the DC in Atlanta to being the DC in Jacksonville now, and the defense look like dog water. It's been terrible. So I don't know what the deal is with that because they got decent talent. It's not like they have dealt with some injuries, so that does hamper things unfortunately. But the offense definitely has underperformed considering the talent they have.
Yeah, ever since Travis Etienne's little brother Trevor transferred from Florida to Georgia, they've sucked. It was like last year and they've sucked.
Funny.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. But that pretty much wraps up this week's episode of Coordinated Chaos. Appreciate you coming on once again. This is Hodge Burkhart. I'm Logan Hill. And just please follow on all the socials.
Super Bowl prediction.
Oh, my God. This is way too early. Chiefs versus the Lions. And I think the Lions get it done.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling right this second. We'll see if the Lions defense can compete with the Chiefs at the end of the season. We'll see how much the Aiden Hutchinson injury really hurts them at the end of the day. If they make a move at the trade deadline, that could really bolster. Like if they go get a Max Crosby or a Myles Garrett, sky's the limit. I think they can win the Super Bowl, and I still think they can do it without Aiden Hutchinson right now. So, but we'll see how much that affects it. But I really like those two teams right now. I think they both look good.
I'm gonna say Chiefs, Falcons.
Falcons?
Oh yeah, the Dirty Birds.
That's crazy. I think you're BSing me.
Really?
There's no way you like the Falcons that much.
Bijan's him.
Okay, all right.
Drake London. I don't know. I have a weird feeling if their defense can just shape up a little bit. I mean,
they got decent talent. I'm worried about the Falcons D-line mostly.
Yeah. And Kirk Cousins is not the most promising quarterback.
He's a little bit up and down.
Yeah.
He can be like on fire like he was Thursday Night Football, 509 yards or whatever. He could also be like he was against the Seahawks and just be like, eh. So,
yeah, but you said you could see the Lions beating the Chiefs. I just don't see anybody beating the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Like, I mean, at the end of the season, like,
but
by the time the season rolls around and it's playoff time, I'm probably gonna be like, why would I ever pick anybody against the Chiefs? It's just the Chiefs' lack of talent is like very apparent this year. Like,
it is.
When Rashee Rice came on at the end of last season, it looked way better than it does right now.
Yeah.
But they're still 6-0, which is just incredible.
But I will say the Bills and the Ravens both handled the trade deadline well.
Yeah,
and
they still could make some more moves.
Yeah, so. they could, and so I mean, and the Texans, like that side's kind of loaded.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the AFC's loaded. That they're gonna have. I mean, it's gonna be murderer's row like in the playoffs for sure.
Like the whole AFC North, other than the Browns, like those look like 3 playoff teams.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the Browns pretty much stink. Yeah, and the Bengals could make a run. So
because they've started winning the games they've had to win.
Yeah,
not pretty, but they've done it.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that pretty much wraps it up. Please follow on all the socials and whatnot, Twitter and TikTok and YouTube. So that's pretty much it. We'll talk to you next week.
Peace.